And if you say, to Trump supporters that Donald Trump is orange, and his attitude to women is a bit archaic, they go, good, I'll vote for him. That doesn't hurt. You have to say he's a useless business failure, and the reason he didn't pay any tax is because he didn't make any money. Now that they hate.
Yeah. So we're talking about humorlessness in politics. The people who think that an attack on their criticism of the political party they support is like a personal insult. The survey shows it's 33% of Reform UK supporters take it as an insult, 32% of Greens, 31% of SNP supporters. Lib Dems apparently don't mind at all. Only 15% of those take offence. I was thinking, well, what better way to measure the barometer of offence and complaint than the post bag of Private Eye? The editor, Ian Hislop, joins me. Hi, Ian.
Hello there, Matt. Hi.
So, the number of times you put different party leaders, particularly on my guesses, on the front cover with a joke at their expense, and then you get letters saying that they're going to cancel their subscriptions as a result. Give me a sense. Does it fit Reform, Brexit Party, and SNPers? Are they the least likely to laugh at themselves?
Yeah, that sounds absolutely right. It used to be UKIP. They were always very, very, very cross. And I presume it's Reform now. Though odd, most of the letters I get from people who describe themselves as GB News viewers. And I'm afraid we've had a bit of a laugh at GB News, and they don't think that's funny at all. And we've had a lot of cancellers. Wonderful letter last week saying, your constant criticism of Brexit, Tories, traditional marriage, and GB News has led me to cancel my subscription. That's it.
Now, here's a question. When someone says, has led me to cancel their subscription, do they cancel?
They tend to wait one issue to see if their letter's in. And then they cancel. Sometimes they just want to let off steam. But on the whole, people do get very, very cross. The SNP furious. Any criticism of Nicola Sturgeon, particularly in the Private Eye poems of William McGonagall, the world's worst poet. But they've gone a bit quiet recently. So
it's funny though, isn't it? Because I had a couple of go when she stood down about a column in the Times being rude about the SNP and got an absolute torrent of anger on social media. And then the other day I described them as a deep fried banana republic. And again, I was then accused, I think, it was xenophobic, apparently.
Yes.
They don't like it. They don't like it up them, in fact, to use the phrase.
No, and they're very used to feeling superior to British politics, which is understandable. But this time round, I think our photo bubble of Nicola Sturgeon saying that she had no idea she was married to Peter Murrell may get them going again. We'll see.
And do you, when you're making those calculations, because sometimes when we're talking about, I don't know if it's Scottish politics or Northern Irish politics, if you're in England and Wales, maybe you're not that into it. Is that a calculation when you're thinking about putting Nicola Sturgeon on, or is she just a sort of celebrity character in the Private Eye world?
No, I mean, I'm always aware of it because one of the other criticisms is you never cover Scottish politics. And then if we do, they say, why do you cover Scottish politics so pathetically? But I have to say on your poll, I mean, the left do get very, very thin-skinned. And I think the further left, the further thin-skinned. And we ran a book review of Bernie Sanders' biography of him. And I've never seen it. I mean, someone wrote in saying, our Daily Express journalists now writing Private Eye. This is the most pathetic hatchet job I've ever read. The writer is about 15. Using the word trot as an insult is 20 years past its sell-by date.
Surely 50 at the very least.
Yeah, come on. So no, they also do get very, very cross. The Lib Dems, I can't remember a letter. I think they're just pleased if you put anything in about them.
How quiet would the news have to be for you to put Ed Davey on the front?
I think the magazine would have had to have closed down.
It's interesting because I think what prompted it, when I wrote about the SNP and then I did another column on Jeremy Corbyn, and I actually ended up doing a poll on Twitter asking who was the least most thin-skinned, because there's the sort of where the Corbynistas meet the SNP, there is that sort of very tribal thing. Did you get the same with Boris Johnson? Because people who like Boris Johnson really like Boris Johnson, did they get very cross?
Yes, they were phenomenally cross. And the most complaints we had was when you may remember, I put a picture of an overflowing toilet on
the
cover and said, this is Boris Johnson's legacy.
Yes.
And no, they were incensed at this treatment. But again, people slightly bought into this cult. And then the same was true of Corbyn, and the same true of Sturgeon and Farage. The other parties, people think, well, we may not like our leader much and we don't mind a joke, but we'll probably vote that way anyway. There is a more normal attitude, a more healthy attitude, I feel, to politicians outside of these groups. So your poll, I thought, was absolutely crack on.
And it's interesting whether, no one would say there's a cult of personality around either Rishi Sunak or Keir Starmer.
Yes, I mean, they're not using the word personality a lot, are they? But that's good. I think we're in a new era. And I think that's partly why the attack ads went down so badly. It was just a suggestion that politics was not going to be boring. And people want boring now. Yeah.
And it's interesting. Do you have to work harder when you're beavering away in the notoriously neat and tidy private eye offices? Do you have to work harder when you've got Rishi Sunak and Keir Starmer rather than Jeremy Corbyn versus Boris Johnson?
No, I think it's easier when the characters are a bit duller, because almost any exaggeration is funny. So no, you have to work harder when the characters are extreme, and also find out what actually offends people. I mean, if you say, to Trump supporters that Donald Trump is orange, and his attitude to women is a bit archaic, they go, good, I'll vote for him. That doesn't hurt. You have to say he's a useless business failure, and the reason he didn't pay any taxes is because he didn't make any money. Now that they hate.
Yeah.
They really hate that. So it's an equivalent here.
And there was one more thing. Oh, yeah. And have I got news for you? Do you get into trouble when I noticed last week when you were talking about the SNP thing, I saw immediately on Twitter people accusing you of being biased and contempt of court and all sorts of things. Do you get? Is it more difficult on the team? Do you have to be sort of equal opportunities in your unbiased in your mockery?
I hope I'm fairly unbalanced at the best of times. No, the pleasure of the BBC is I'm not paying. The eye, well, that's serious.
Oh, so yeah, that's true. If you're in contempt of court at the page of the private eye, you're in trouble. But if it's the if you do it on Have I Got News for You?
Yes, no, I presume that the potential legal actions go elsewhere. I do hope so. No, and I think. Sorry, Karen.
No, I'm sorry. Okay. And just in terms, actually, if I got news for you, sometimes you have politicians on. I mean, you had me on last season. It was very nice. Yes. It was nice to go. If you could have any politician on, if I got news for you right now, who would you have on?
Who would I have on? I think Blair would be good.
As a host or as a teammate?
Mate. Yes. I think a teammate is what you're looking at.
He'd be very good. He would be very, very good. Well, Ian, best of luck. I hope that all of the subscriptions aren't cancelled by next week. Presumably, actually, it's doing phenomenally well, isn't it, Private Eye? Actually, despite all of the many cancelled subscriptions.
Yeah, well, up to last week, I think we were doing fine, but you never know. I mean, there were an awful lot of letters last week, so yeah, we hope.
All letters about Nicola Sturgeon.
No, they're very, very cross about. So let me just get this one.
Yeah.
Yeah, in the current issue, there's an awful lot of letters. There's one who's annoyed generally. It says that David Armitage considers you a leftist organisation. And Laurie Harper says, you're not keen on the left. Come on, make your mind up.
There's definitely something in there about if you're upsetting everyone, you're doing something right. Ian,
I'll tell you what the most complaints we got last issue was, though. I mean, this is what our readers really care about. You think it's politics. It was the derivation of the phrase, let's scarper. Was it rhyming slang with scarper flow, go, or did it come from an old Italian word? And if you think political correspondents are angry, you should see the pedants.
Ian, always lovely to speak to. Ian Hislop, editor of Private Eye. Thanks so much for joining us on Times Radio.